Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. March is Women's History Month, and my first guest is indeed a history maker. Kimberly Avery has made her way to the top of an industry that's traditionally dominated by white males. She's the first African-American woman appointed to the position of Southwest Region Engineer at the Michigan Department of Transportation. In that role, she oversees 1,200 miles of state trunk line, 280 employees, a $100 million capital program, and a $34 million annual maintenance budget. Later this month, she's going to be honored in Washington, D.C. by the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials. I'm pleased to welcome Kimberly Avery to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. So for nerds like me, I know what that means, that you're the Southwest Region Engineer for the Department of Transportation. But I think some people watching might not quite understand how big a deal that is. This is a significant amount of responsibility for, as I said, trunk line here in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, being a region engineer, the Michigan Department of Transportation has 7 regions. So this is one of 7, and so I report directly to the director of MDOT, and I'm responsible for 7 counties, and we do everything from maintenance, construction, traffic and safety, design, so basically take care of that roadway system.
Yeah, and when we say trunk line, explain what that means.
That means all of the roadway that's owned by the state of Michigan.
Yeah. So, for instance.
So, for instance, in my area, I'm in charge of I-94, I-69, in charge of like 131 in the Kalamazoo area, in Battle Creek, and Albion, and all the way to the Indiana border.
Yeah, yeah. And talk to me about how you got interested in this. As I said in the open, this is a field that's dominated by males, first of all, but also by white males. What made you sort of say, this is what I want to do?
I think as a child, I was really interested in just basically seeing how things work. And so at the time, I think my mom kind of called it, being kind of a little destructive. I would take take stuff apart, try to put it back together. A lot of times it didn't quite go back together correctly, but I learned something in the process. Right. And so as I, grew and stuff and went through high school, I started to learn about engineering. And coming from, Michigan, from being in Southeast Michigan, the car industry was really big. Mm-hmm. And so I started to learn about what mechanical engineers do. And so I decided that, I wanted to be an engineer. And so I went off to school. And then once I was in school, I kind of honed it down to, I really wanted to go more into civil versus in the mechanical area. Yeah, yeah.
And talk about how you came to the Michigan Department of Transportation. How long have you been there?
I've been with the Michigan Department of Transportation for 26 years. Mm-hmm. I started off as a engineering and training, working in the Lansing area in construction. Building highways throughout the Lansing area, working out directly in the field with my hard hat boots, sometimes with the flag in my hand.
And talk about that experience. I mean, again, you would have been one of the few women out there, I would imagine, on the side of the road with the flag and the hard hat, and of course, one of the few African Americans doing it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing there was, for me, was really having a passion for what I did and really not letting anything stop me, when there were obstacles, especially working in the construction part of it. A lot of times there were obstacles where they said, okay, well, we're not sure if you can do this or that. I took on the challenge and I said, let me at least try.
Let me try it, right? And, I can't do it.
Right. And I found that I could do a lot of those things. And, and the biggest thing was, gaining the respect of the people that I worked with.
Yeah. And so from there, you get to this position of region engineer, obviously by performing well, but again, I would imagine that there were some obstacles you had to sort of navigate around on the way, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, with anything there's those obstacles, and and a lot of it is just taking it step by step. Setting some goals for yourself and figuring out how do you achieve those goals, and really making sure that along the way, I was really, doing the best that I could to move from step to step.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times, raising my hand and volunteering for things really helped a lot with the things that I was looking to do.
That's one of the things that I think when you talk, especially with young people, about how you get ahead and how you make progress, raising your hand and sort of asserting yourself is one of the things that you want to remember to tell them, because I think in a lot of cases, African American kids in particular, because it's sometimes uncomfortable to be the only person like you in a situation, the natural instinct sometimes is to be quieter and not necessarily push yourself out there. You sort of have to push back against that instinct sometimes.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found, that a lot of times, because naturally for me, I'm more of a quiet person. And so I, really had to get out of my comfort zone and really, put myself out there and really show that I had the skills and abilities to do the job. And, a lot of that is taking those chances and really getting out there.
Yeah. Do you see, when you look sort of down the ranks in the department, do you see more women and more African Americans sort of coming through the pipeline now to try to take some of the opportunities that you had?
That's one of the things that the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials is working on, is really creating that pipeline of other African Americans coming into the field. And we're finding that we are having problems finding people going into the transportation and engineering field in general. And so we're really trying to get the word out, sending professionals out to the schools, doing a lot of outreach to really, show students that, think about, being an engineer, think about, transportation as a career, because I think a lot of it is just not getting the word out so that people know that that's an opportunity for them.
Do you feel like part of the problem is people who become engineers and don't want to become transportation engineers, or do we have a bigger problem with African Americans just becoming engineers in the first place? Or is it both?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think, the fear of sometimes being an engineer, because a lot of times when people say, oh, you're an engineer, they think that, okay, well, I'm not, the big brainiac, so I can't really do that. And so I think that really taking that fear away from that, because one of the things that I do when I go out and talk to students, I talk a lot about, that you can attain this, and you just take it step by step. And then the other thing is, I think transportation is one of those fields that people don't know a lot about, because it's one of those things that we all use it, we all need it, but it's...
We don't know about it until it doesn't work.
That's right.
And of course, speaking of that, I would be remiss if I had you here and didn't ask you about the state of our roads here in Michigan. Of course, nationally, we rank very, very poorly, and anyone who drives the roads can tell you we have real challenges. The department gets a lot of blame for that. Of course, you're not to blame. You don't set the funding. You just have to spend the money. Talk about how you see that sort of getting better. We are going to spend a little more money on roads. Are people going to stop, losing their fillings driving down 94 sometime soon?
I think it's gonna, it's still gonna take time, because we just got the new funding, and so it's gonna take time to have that roll out and for people to really see that real change. But I think that the more that we continue to make smart decisions as to what roads do we do, how do we do a mix of fixes. What we do is we look at, okay, keeping the good roads good, and then also working on the existing system that we have. And so I think the more that we continue to do those things and make those smart decisions, people will see a change.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all your success in the award, the recognition you're going to get in Washington, D.C. And thanks for being here on American Black Journal.
Thank you so much.